This is my last faction I'm going to show when it comes to my Chaos Alphabet series. It's Thousand Sons. It's becoming one of my favorites. I've only used it a couple times because you had to be real selective with it, but I've always liked it. I've always liked the power the Rubric Marines can bring. But with this new cult of the Damned, the rituals there that the Thousand Sons have, I'm hoping they're really going to be a lot better. Now, I formed 2 battalion detachments with this because I find with the Thousand Sons, I really need to have the command points behind them. Like the Khorne Berserkers I was showing you, I only had 8, and then it got reduced down. With this one, I'm going to start with 13 in this 1750 army, and I think I need that to help. So what I do is I start 1 battalion. It's going to start with the Cult of Duplicity. Now, let me just say, if you haven't seen my Soupy army, where I really use the Supreme Command detachment, the Tzeentch one, I really like a lot, with Ahriman on a disc and 2 Demon Prince. I give them the Cult of Magic. To me, the Cult of Magic is the best to me. It's an offensive threat, and it does me real good with that. And I've already explained that in the Soupy video. So I'm trying to use something different, and I'm not as offensive with let me explain that. This army is not the type of army that's going to go out the Thousand Sons and just table the opponent. It's just not going to happen. You don't have the power with this unless you give yourself some very little Thousand Sons unit and then build it around a bunch of other units. Well, if you're just going to do that, why even use the Thousand Sons? So the point of this battalion, or this 1750 army, is to be a heavy Thousand Sons. And like I've stated many times before in my other videos, I'm not buying any more units, and that's why you won't see any Zangars in here, if that's how you pronounce them. I won't have them. I'm not paying for any more. So this is what I've always had, and this is what I'm putting together. To keep this a fully Thousand Sons detachment, this is how I believe I have to fight it. They can't be too offensive minded. They're more, if you can understand this, you would use a defensive strategy with this. So you're going for objectives. You're playing the objectives even more than you normally would. You're there to grab them and to keep the opponent off the ones that you need. So you're going at this as a defensive type of strategy. So the 1st battalion, I'm going to give them Cult of Duplicity. Now, this battalion has the headquarters in an Ahriman. Ahriman does not benefit from none of these cults. So when you put 2 headquarters units in, and one of them's Ahriman, he doesn't get to use anything. So Cult of Duplicity is one of my maybe 3rd or 4th favorite. Actually, it's my 3rd favorite cult. And so Ahriman won't benefit from him. And the only reason why I like Duplicity is because it has, so this has the psychic power Sorceress Facade, and with this I can take a Cult of Duplicity unit, remove it from the battlefield, and set it up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from enemy models. This is stuff like the Grey Knights do to me all the time. 2 squads of Thousand Sons. One is a 10-man squad and one is a 15-man squad, and they both have Soul Reaper cannons in them. But can you imagine if I take that 15-man squad and I can move it somewhere, hit first with all their shots, 15 shots with their bolt gun rule, 30 shots. That's pretty powerful. Plus with their minus AP, I mean, very effective force. And the Sorcerer, the other headquarters in the unit, will be able to use this, and I will keep him back with these 2 Marine squads. Now, in case you don't know, the Cult of Duplicity can only be used in this attachment. Even though I have another battalion with some other Marines in it, you won't be able to use the Cult of Duplicity. So that's why I put 2 squads here with the Sorcerer. That is going to work with these 2 squads and him. Ahriman does not benefit. Because if you look at the rest of Cult of Duplicity's traits, the Warlord trait, but my Sorcerer isn't the Warlord, and Ahriman isn't the Warlord, so I don't bother giving them this because I really don't need to spend a command point to allow me to have another Warlord trait like you see I do on some units, because this Warlord trait, I can live without it. And then the Relic is absolutely worthless. So Duplicity has the psychic power that is really good, that I can make of great use for putting him on the Sorcerer. And then Ahriman isn't benefited, so I put Cult of Duplicity in this detachment, and I'm only using 1/3 of its capability, but really I only have the Sorcerer and 2 Marines that are going to benefit from it. So that's why I set this up like this. Now I will come back and go over Ahriman's powers and the Sorcerer's other psychic powers after I tell you what I have in the other detachment. The other battalion detachment is going to have the Cult of Time. That is my second favorite, and that one is with the Demon Prince. The Demon Prince will get the Warlord trait, and that is if he can pass a psychic test 9 or plus, then he can attempt another one. Not a great game changer here, but it's nice to throw that extra spell if you need it. And you'll roll that 9, a few times in the game, so at least 2 times. So very nice. Then he gets the Relic. The Relic is what I really like, the Hourglass Relic. When he's destroyed, you set him back up within 1 inch of the area where he was destroyed, at least 1 inch from an enemy, and he returns to play with D3 wounds remaining. Now, it kind of sucks on the face of it, because if he gets killed like in hand-to-hand, which you usually most of the time use him as, then you have to put him right back in there. And it would be at the end of the phase, but you have to put him right back in. So if you lose him on your turn, it kind of sucks, because then the opponent goes and he's just going to kill him again. But with a little bit of mastery of this, you can work it out where you keep him out of harm's way just when he's ready to die, and you can have him die somewhere else on the battlefield. So I really like Hourglass, especially if it's on turn 4 or 5 and he's about ready to die and you can get him back in. Sometimes, how would you wish? You wish you had that one more wound to go. So bringing your Demon Prince back, I like. And then having the Demon Prince and the other headquarters unit here, the Exalted Sorcerer, gain the psychic power. You can return 1 destroyed model from that unit to the battlefield with all of its wounds remaining. So with that, it has to be infantry. So I have 1 squad of Rubric Marines here that I'll be able to use that on. And then we have the Terminators. The Rubric Marines I have with this detachment, and I have 2 5-man squads of the Scarab Occult Terminators too. And I will be able to bring them back in. So the Terminators being able to time flux here with this psychic power should be pretty beneficial. I mean, imagine someone trying to kill 10 of your Terminators, but you happen to bring what, maybe 2 back with this power. You only have to succeed on a 5, so I'd say we'd get this 2-3 times that you're bringing 3 of these Terminators back, then he has to kill them again. And you can do it with the Rubric Marine squad. As they're dying, you're bringing them back to life. So I really like the Cult of Time Flux with this psychic power. And the Exalted Sorcerer and the Demon Prince gets to use that. And then the Demon Prince gets the extra psychic power if he rolls a roll higher than a 9. Now he already gets 2. The Exalted Sorcerer gets 2, that's 4, and then he would get another one, that's 5 alone. Ahriman on his detachment's getting 3, and then the Sorcerer's getting another 2. There's 5. I mean, I'm throwing out 10 spells here. Plus the Marines and the Terminators are throwing out spells. Now with all these spells, you kind of have a overlap of spells because you don't have that many good ones, but I make it work. So, what I like to do, now let's go back to Ahriman. So you have the Demon Prince that can come back to life here with the Relic. And then you can bring Marines and Terminators back to life with this. I give him Death Hex to take a vulnerable saves from the enemy, so the Demon Prince could be real effective, and as well as my bolt guns and the combi bolters from the Terminators. I have Diabolic Strength with Ahriman. I really like to give that extra strength to the Demon Prince because he's at a 7. When he gets an extra strength point, that makes him an 8. That means he can have a very good chance of destroying any unit on the battlefield. So I really like that. And then he gives them an extra attack too. So he'll be attacking with like 8 or 9 attack. Diabolical Strength really improves the Demon Prince's ability. And then I like giving him Temporal Manipulation. That is, anybody within 12 inches of him, he can immediately heal D3 wounds. Now remember, Thousand Sons special abilities, you add 6 inches to this range. That means 18 inches. So you keep Ahriman, he's on a disc. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned that, but Ahriman's on a disc. You keep him within that range of the Demon Prince fighting. As the Demon Prince comes back to heal with the D3 wounds, now I try another D3 wounds on him. We can probably get, I mean maximum would be 6, but on average you're probably getting 3 or 4 wounds back to this Demon Prince. Right back on the board. That's anything that, that will plumb deflate your enemy's morale when they see that kind of stuff happening. So you're keeping the Demon Prince alive, and you're bringing back Rubic Marines or Terminators with the Time Flux spell. So I really like the Cult of Time spells. Anyways, the Sorcerer, he gets the one where he can move a unit around. So I'm planning, I already went over that. The Sorcerer has the Sorcerer's Facade where he can move that 15-man squad of Rubic Marines somewhere on the board, capture an objective. Now I give him Weaver of Fates, and that is, it improves the invulnerable save of a unit. So I like to throw that either on the Rubic Marines to improve their invulnerable status or improve the Terminator invulnerable save. So that's what I use that for. And I also give them Prescience, which you can add 1 to your hit rolls. So you can see the Sorcerer here, I keep him behind the 2 squads of Marines here he has. The Cultists are off on the other end of the battlefield. They're just there to go cause problems, grab objectives. Doesn't matter to me if they waste shooting on them. I try to have them waste better weapons to shoot at them than just have their little riflemen shots, because their little riflemen don't have anything to shoot at anyway. So don't throw your Cultists at them. Keep your Cultists where he has to use like some big gun to shoot at him. So I don't mind the Cultists going at some big guns. Make them waste their shots on them. But I use Prescience and Weaver of Fates here and the Facade to keep my Rubic Marines going. Molotov Vortex Beast. Now I haven't used this guy in battle yet, and you can see here it's a proxy unit, but he looks pretty good. He looks like he could do pretty good, and he has a 5 invul save. He's out there to cause distractions. Remember, Cultists and him are out there to cause distractions, and then the Tide of Traitors, always I can bring in a squad of Cultists after it's been killed, bring 1 squad back in the game. So that's nice. So here he is. What you're seeing at is really as a Facade. He could be killing Rubic Marines, but I'm bringing them back to life. Same with Terminators, bringing them back to life. He can kill the Demon Prince, but you can get him back on the board. He can kill the squad of Cultists, but I'm getting him back on the board. So I think with that, with a game going 5 turns, I think it allows me to really collect points on the board, because I'm bringing things and I can move things around the board and grab the objectives that I need. Now, one last thing I do is I do spend 1 command point to give myself an extra relic. Since I already have a relic with the Cult of Time, I like Crystal Matter. Give the Sorcerer that. And that way, I can take a unit and move him anywhere I want on the board. This is really, really an army that you have to really stay on top of and be aware of. It's not out there to just kill units. It's out there to win the game. I don't know if that makes sense, but you're not trying to table the enemy. You're just winning the game by grabbing objectives and stopping the enemy from getting his objectives. Now, I do like giving the Prince warp time to help move Terminators around, to help them make their charges. So that's what I'll use that for. And then I give the Demon Prince, remember, they get Time Flux already because they have the Cult of Time. But Bolt of Chain, and that is, I'm just trying to make another unit suffer D3 mortal wounds. So with him I will smite, with D3, try to get D3 mortal wounds, and then I'll do bolt of chain D3 mortal wounds. So it's just give the Demon Prince a little extra hit as he goes in to attack somebody, some heavy unit, you know. The Exalted Sorcerer, I spend another command point for the... Okay, so I really like the stratagems that they came out with in the Ritual of the Damned book. Every single one of them is good. So I spend a command point right away before the battle, and I give the Exalted Sorcerer High Magister, and he can add 1 to any psychic test. I really like that. Succeeding in psychic tests, man. If you're succeeding in all your psychic tests, you're going to devastate your opponent. He allows your Rubric Marines to reroll hit rolls of 1. So remember, I'm keeping all these Marines toward the back, you know, not really out in the middle of the battlefield, more on my side with these 2 sorcerers, the Exalted Sorcerer and the regular Sorcerer, behind him. And all their support, all their psychic abilities go on them to make them harder to hit, to add 1 to their hit rolls, to re-roll hit rolls of 1, to add 1 to their invulnerable saves. I mean, I'm really making these guys hard to kill, and then because of Cult of Time, I can get these back in the game, you know, as you're losing them. So, very, very effective, man. All the Rubric Marines and Terminators, they're going to have the Time Flux too. 2 squads of Terminators and 1 squad of Marines. So 3 more Sorcerers in this detachment gets Time Flux that they can replace wounded, destroyed units, man. I think it's going to be really, really effective. And I'm really going to make this work. That's the plan. The last thing are their stratagems I talked about. Magister is pretty good, but I really like Adepts of the Immaterium. And that is, if they suffer perils of the warp, I don't have to suffer perils of the warp. So it takes that away. And that's 1 command point. And that's what I like, the command points. Without that, I've lost Demon Princes, I've lost Airmen just on perils of the warp because I'm throwing so many spells all the time. So this one really comes in handy. And then Indomitable Foes, 1 command point. I can improve my invulnerable save. So you can use a command point here to improve your invulnerable save and the spell. Now I'm down to a 3. Remember, the maximum you can go is to a 3. So now I can give Terminators or Rubric Marines a 3+ invul save. So you can't go wrong with that at all. If I really have to, there's a stratagem, Risen Rubricate. 1 command point, I can redeploy 1 of my Marines anywhere on the battlefield like I'm doing with the spell. So there's 1 command point for that. And then the Infernal Fusillade, 1 command point. Till the end of the phase, the models in this unit can shoot twice with rapid fire weapons if I didn't move. So again, these stratagems in this book, if you haven't seen them, you got to get them. They're really great. So very effective. So anyways, that's my Thousand Sons army.